Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 45 of CBD Talk Podcast. And today we have caseyabass with us. Casey has got some interesting stuff to talk about, and I'm really excited. I don't know if you guys have ever even heard of this before, but Casey is a cannabis sommelier. So we're gonna learn some stuff today. So, Casey, how about you start out with kind of telling us how you got into the industry?
Okay. Well, I guess a little bit about myself. I have a long history with cannabis. Cannabis and I go way back. My mom hates when I tell this story, but she told it to me as I was an adult. So I enjoy spreading it to everyone else. So why not do it on your podcast now? But she told me way back in 1981, after giving birth to me, and once we got home from the hospital, she said the very first thing she did was smoke a joint. I tell people that I was consuming infused milk from the day I got home. So yeah, cannabis and I, and with no ill effects, of course. Cannabis and I go way back. Experimented more with it when I was in high school and college, and learned to love it. You know, it helps me be more compassionate and connect with nature. And there's just so many good things it does when it's used responsibly.
And of course, breast milk actually does have cannabinoids in it. So
Right. Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
got a bigger dosage of them.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So out of college, I began working for R.J. Reynolds Tobacco. It was a good gig, but I just wasn't passionate about it. I was good at what I did, but as I was getting older, I realized that I didn't want to be that person that was working a job that I hated. I had seen, I was witnessing people do it, and I saw how unhappy it can make your life if you go to work at a job that you don't like. So, and cannabis was always on my mind during this time. The legalization movement had started. At that time, Colorado was just starting to open their dispensaries, and I felt like there was an opportunity for me out there, and it was always in the back of my mind to make that jump. And I also had the fortune, if you will, to appear on a game show, and I won some money. So it provided.
That's awesome. What game show was it?
Wheel of Fortune.
Nice.
Yeah, I was on there back in 2012. So made it to the final round, solved the final puzzle correctly. So it gave me a good little financial buffer to make that leap to Colorado. Because while there is a lot of good opportunity and a lot of jobs out there, it's a big risk, and it's a big leap to take when you got to go through the process of getting your badge and finding housing, and then making the network and connects that are necessary to work in the industry. But I did have some long distance connection in Colorado that was able to help me get on my feet, and worked in consulting there for a little bit, helping getting a product in certain dispensaries with very moderate success. And then about the last year and a half that I was there, I helped build 2 greenhouses, and specifically worked just in greenhouse cultivation. So
lots of hand-on.
Excuse me?
Lots of hands-on stuff.
Yeah, lots of hands-on stuff, absolutely. And that whole time I was growing in my basement too. So loved Colorado, and plant counts I may or may not have abided by, but so yeah, there was a lot of trial and error there. So I learned a lot while I was out there. So it's something I'm passionate about, and want to spread as much knowledge and education as I can.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, yeah, so you literally have had a lifelong experience with cannabis. That's awesome.
That is right. That is right. Unknowingly, but and like you said, we were going to ingest that anyway, right?
Exactly.
It's a naturally occurring substance. So
But that's one of the things that a lot of people never really understood, and that's why education is so important. Is because your body makes cannabinoids. You got endocannabinoids, and then
right, endocannabinoid system,
the phytocannabinoids from the plants. It is literally, you can't get more natural than when your body creates it. So
absolutely.
so
right.
we like that. All right. So I had never heard of a cannabis sommelier before.
Hmm.
So I want to know everything about this. How did you become it, and what process, and school us.
Okay, so yeah, cannabis sommelier or interpener. It's the I guess the technical classification would be interpening, and that is the combination of interpreting terpenes. Um,
Nice.
yeah. I gained that certification through the Trichome Institute in Denver, downtown Denver. It's a great class. It was just a one-day course, about 6 hours, and you go through some training, and then you have to take an intensive test at the end. And you're not guaranteed certification. You have to obviously get so many correct
Hmm.
before you get your certification. But so yeah, no different than wine has their sommeliers, and coffee has cuppers, and cheese has mongers. Cannabis now has interpeners, and there is a class where you can go and get educated. So basically, it is a method used to identify what strain or species or subspecies that you're smoking by using both visual and nasal cues. So
Hmm.
looking at the bud and also smelling it. And so I think we had mentioned this before. I'll just go ahead and start with, I guess, a little bit of Cannabis 101 when
Uh-huh.
it comes to
Please.
that. So sativa, we'll start with sativa. Sativa originated in the equatorial regions of both Africa and North and South America. And so you're more times than not, you're going to have a taller, skinnier plant. There's going to be more space between the nodes or branches. It is a narrow leaf plant, so the leaves are going to be spread out and kind of long, skinnier, narrower leaves. And the buds themselves are also going, or the flowers themselves are also going to be elongated, maybe a little airy, wispy, and open. And and with that, when it comes to the nasal cues as well, when you're smelling the cannabis, it is supposed to activate sort of in the top of your nose towards your eyes.
Oh, like the
So
bridge of your nose.
the bridge, so it is actually more, it would be more up even higher than the bridge. So
Oh,
towards your
wow.
eyes,
Oh,
really
okay.
up top towards your top of your nasal cavity. And with that, that kind of goes with the effects of sativa too. So sativa is going to be more of an uplifting, euphoric. It kind of spurs creativity, and sometimes I like to call it focus in a jar too. So sativa, I'm no mechanic, but I say if you're going to be doing a project, say working on your car, or something that needs some white hot intensity focus for a good amount of time, sativa is what you want to do. And another indication to sativa, if you know you've got a good sativa, it should affect you pretty quickly in the forehead area. You should feel something going on in that region. So that kind of speaks to also that should activate your
Hmm.
nose in that region too. And when it comes to the nasal cues, that's where it's more of an imperfect science, and it takes practice because I guess people aren't used to smelling the bud in that kind of long, drawn out way, and you got to get used. Because I guess you and I could be sitting together and smelling buds, and we may disagree on what strain or species or subspecies it may be, but it takes practice. And once you kind of get more familiar with your nose
Hmm.
and how you're smelling it, it works most of the time. The visual is more reliable, I think, but the
Hmm.
nasal, once you get accustomed to it, it does work. And then getting to indicas. Indicas will activate your nose more at the bottom. So indica
Okay.
originated in South Asia and the Afghan or Hindu Kush region of
Hmm.
Afghanistan. It is going to be a shorter, bushier plant. The leaves are going to be more of a broad leaf, kind of not as long, shorter, broad leaf. Less space in between the nodes or the branches, so that's what makes it bushier. And then the buds, the flowers themselves, are going to be, I don't want to say round, but it's going to be a chunkier, denser bud for
Hmm.
sure. And then when you've got indica dominant hybrids, you've got 50-50 hybrids, and you've got sativa dominant hybrids. So your indica dominant hybrid is going to be a hybrid that is going to be more prominent with the indica effects which I didn't get to, but indica is going to give you more of a sedative, pain relieving, body dominant, relaxing feeling. And that's where the term couch lock comes from. The indica, I wouldn't recommend using indica before playing sports or doing something active. Indica is more the end of the day, relaxing, or if you want to kind of sit on the couch and watch TV for a while. When I was in Colorado, one of the good things the dispensaries told me, one of the very first dispensaries told me, indica for the evening, sativa for the day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a good baseline to go off of. And with the indica, you are going to have, I guess, more of a chocolate, and it will be more of your nostrils. So chocolate, earthy, woodsy, and floral flavors more times than not. And sativa will be, you're going to have piney, citrus, and skunk are some of the, I guess, aromas that you will smell in some of those buds. So, and it's something I'm passionate about because there's a lot of misinformation out there. And one of the cool things that I learned in the class, the guy was basically saying one of the least important things when it comes in your purchasing process in a dispensary is the label on the jar.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, if I went to Massachusetts or wherever on the East Coast that's legal and I got, say, a Blue Dream or a Gorilla Glue, and then came here to Michigan and got the same strain, went to where you're at in Colorado, same thing, went to California, and we compared those, they're probably going to be different.
Yes.
So there is no consistent Gorilla Glue or Blue Dream out there because there is just between the hybridization, or if you take a clone from a plant that's grown outdoors in Northern California and drive it to Colorado and you start growing it indoors under artificial light and a drier climate and colder water, it's going to change. And so there's a lot of misinformation, and I really want to educate people so they can make an informed decision when they are going through the buying process.
Definitely.
So and with that class, so I guess, like I said, there's some a long period of training, so you can identify both what type of bud it is and the species and subspecies, where the visual and nasal cues, and then it also shows, and this is very important, there's a lot of inferior product or just poor product out there, I guess. And even in the dispensaries, Colorado, not so much, but I'm not going to mention any names or throw anybody under the bus, but even in the dispensaries, there's still some not so good product out there. And if you can identify that, then you can make the proper decision and not buy that. So
especially, we're talking about it still. There's lots of regulations, but there's no standards. There.
Right. Yeah. The labs, and you take them into the labs, and some of this is a little over my head, but the labs might not even be that accurate.
We've seen cases where the same product has gone to two different labs and gotten completely different responses, results. Right. It's just so we're still in the Wild West.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's better to, if you have that education and ammo going in, that like I said, the least important thing is that label. But when it comes to inferior product, and it's sad, and like I said, I've seen it in dispensaries in multiple states, you can have old buds that who knows? Over a year old that I've seen in dispensaries, and you can tell that by the bottom of the bud, it will start blonding, or there's going to be a lightening or tanning or a blonder color, and that starts from the bottom of the bud and works its way up. So if you see buds that are lighter at the bottom, those things they shouldn't really be on the shelf. It's not fresh bud, and they may have been cured properly, but they could have been sitting in a safe for several months to a year. Mold is also a huge problem. Botrytis,
that's bad.
Yeah, and so like I said, I grew up in Indiana. I am now in the greater Detroit area of Michigan. Grew up in Indiana. So obviously, when I was using there, and still, if you happen to be there, and
I was going to say, Indiana's so cannabis friendly. Even CBD. Oh, they just love that stuff.
Right. I was just reading articles today that a group of prosecutors got up and they said the war on drugs is not over, and they're pulling CBD from the shelves, and they're out to get people. and they were quoting facts that are just untrue.
Yeah, they're facts that aren't facts.
Yes, non-facts that are, Nixon era stuff that was more propaganda than truth. So yeah, Indiana, the ball is rolling, but they will go kicking and screaming. They will be one of the last ones to go.
Yeah.
But I guess back to what I was getting at there, now that I can identify a moldy bud, I've smoked moldy buds so many times it kind of makes me sick to my stomach to think about it in Indiana, because you don't, wherever you were getting it from on the black market, that guy, you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You're buying whatever he has, and if it smells funny, oh well.
Yeah.
But that musty, moldy smell, you can still smell it in some of the dispensaries today. And that's just speaks to people trying to move the product, and growers that are more, I guess, concerned about making money than they are growing a quality.
Yeah, quantity, not quantity. I mean, quantity, not quality. Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to worry about pounds per light and how many pounds they can pull down instead of a truly good product. So yeah, you'll find moldy buds, you'll find old buds in dispensaries. You will find and there's, any grower out there is very familiar with powdery mildew and spider mites.
Yeah.
Powdery mildew, to the untrained eye, as long as it's not just crazy overcome with powdery mildew, can kind of look like a dense cluster of trichomes. And spider mites, while I haven't done too much research on it, I'm assuming there's not too many health risks to combusting and burning and smoking. But who wants to smoke bugs
exactly
in their flower, right? So, and I've seen spider mites. Now, granted, a lot of time, they're going to be dead, and sometimes you have to break the bud open. On a live plant, they live on the bottom side of the fan leaves, but they can be inside the bud, and I've seen it.
Yeah.
And but I think a lot of people, some people just expect ignorance in the buying community, but that's what we're going to be working on, is trying to educate these people, and hopefully they can make a good informed decision when they go to the dispensary.
Definitely. There is a lot happening. I know that in Colorado, at least, they crack down on the pesticides.
Right.
Because you should not be smoking pesticides.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah. And who knows, like, the long-term effects on those.
Yeah.
And in that class, we learned neem oil was the instructor said neem oil, I guess it's organic, and that is like the best organic pesticide, I guess, that works, along with using other, I guess, insects that may prey on the pests. But people using, I guess, like you said, the pesticides, nobody knows, even if it's not immediate, the long-term effects, nobody really knows.
And that's the thing, is that there are so many people that are relying on this for their health. It truly is. It's saving lives. It's making lives better. And that can only happen if it's safe. Not if you've got mildew or if you've got pesticides. I mean, that's just going to harm the person instead of help the person, and that's not what we're about as an industry. I mean, yeah, we've got a lot of people, probably more people on the rec side than on the medical side, but we have to make the standards for the medical side, because everyone will benefit from it. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Having consistency and having a product that you can rely on. Yeah, we don't want misinformation. We don't want bad information, and we want a good product. And like you said, the people that really need it, the last thing they need is to have something foreign or toxic in their medicine. That's harmful, and we don't want it. So, back to the rec side. Like I said, when I experimented in my early days, there was a time in my life, I think I was using it for intoxication, maybe in college, and not wellness. But I've grown to use it more responsibly and more of I still use it recreationally, but I'm not getting up in the morning and smoking first thing or anything like that. The people that do, that's fine. And some people need it for medical benefit or purposes, for sure. But I'm a rec user. Fortunately, to my knowledge, I don't have any health benefits or health issues that I need to use it medicinally yet, but moving forward, I may, and I want it to be also a consistent product.
With the anti-inflammatory properties, it's a preventative for everybody.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, the CBD can be just so valuable.
yeah.
Whether anti-anxiety, as you said, an anti-inflammatory, and not to mention the miracles it does for epilepsy and some of
Oh,
the more
yeah,
serious conditions.
definitely.
But you know, I am real interested in the aging community too, the
Mhm.
elderly, and you know, it's a growing population. People are living longer, and with that, they're having more aches and pains with that. And
Mhm.
my grandmother passed away a few years ago, and I witnessed her. She did have to be in a nursing home for 3 or 4 months, and
Mhm.
it was tough to see. I know some people have to deal with that a lot longer, so I'm not trying to say that it
Yeah.
was,
Mhm.
you know, my problems are not as bad as other people's. So, but um, it I think she could have really used it because they had her hopped up on these painkillers. So you
Mhm.
would literally, you know, it was obviously tough on her, and it was tough on the family to see it. She was kind of wasting away and really messed up on these painkillers. And she was saying she saw bugs on the wall, and
Oh, poor
you
thing.
know, and not eating, you know, just really
Mhm.
physically wasting away. And even if it's not some miracle that's going to cure somebody, or but
Mhm.
in the last days of your life,
Quality of life for sure.
quality of life, absolutely. You know, if it can help you get a good night's rest, or if it can
Mhm.
increase your appetite to put on a little weight, or enjoy food, or actually stomach food,
Yeah.
then surely can't we allow people to do that and not have them face the risk of
Well, you're drugging
incarceration?
the crap out of them with the pharmaceutical, so, I mean,
Hmm.
if you're gonna put them in a completely drug state anyway, might as well be something that's, that's natural and it's gonna make them feel better without terrible side effects. I mean, look at the some of the side effects of the pain medication, the just the constipation. I mean,
Right.
that's terrible.
Unreal. Yeah. The fine print at the bottom of the
Yeah,
commercials, or the 30-second long list of things that the guy
exactly.
spouts off like an auctioneer. Like, who would buy that stuff if all, you know, like, may lead to death?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
or
and that's it. When you've got a 90-year-old, 80-year-old woman who's, in a nursing home, the last thing she wants to worry about is having impacted bowels, for God's sakes. I mean, this is ridiculous.
right,
And it's
right.
humiliating for them on top of
Yeah.
it. It's terrible. So I yeah.
Absolutely humiliating. And for the family's purposes,
Mhm.
it would be nice for those last days for that individual to be present,
Yes.
and not be on the moon somewhere,
Mhm.
completely drugged up, and not the person that the family loves and cares about.
Exactly.
And it makes it hard on everybody, but that's the system we live in, unfortunately. And you know, getting to that, let alone the elderly, but just the opioid crisis, and then
Oh yeah.
prescribing those pills, and then putting restrictions on the doctors, so making it tougher for people to get those drugs. So then they go to the black market,
Mhm.
which nobody knows what is in those drugs. It is just a messy situation, and
It is.
unfortunately,
It is,
um,
and it's really making me very, very angry because my mother's in that situation. She's gotten off the oxy completely
mhm.
with the CBD, um, but
Oh
and
wow,
yeah, but now she's on. She because she has spinal stenosis and nail patella syndrome. There's a lot of pain issues, um, but she's still on fentanyl every 4 days.
oh really?
So, so she's trying to get off of it, and the cannabis actually really helps, except that she's not in a legal state.
Right, there
So,
you go. Yeah, so you know,
so we have to, she has to be off for a complete month before she goes back to the pain doctor so that she passes her UI. We're talking about a 75-year-old woman. No, actually, no, 77-year-old woman. That we have to worry about my 77-year-old mother having a clean UI or whatever
right.
it's called, whatever the heck that test is called, so that she can have her medication. But she's trying to get off of her medication so that with the cannabis, which is so much more natural and it isn't going to possibly kill you like the
Hmm.
fentanyl can easily do. It's beyond absurd. It's oh my god, I just can't even.
It really is. Yeah, it is somewhat of a sick society we live
It
in,
is.
when it comes to money and just the powers that be, and
Mm-hmm.
some of the propaganda and misinformation we've been fed.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people believe it, unfortunately, because from the time they were raised. That's what's been pounded in their head, and it's not their fault. But unfortunately, a lot of people, we've been lied to. We've been lied to by the government about this product, and
unfortunately, there's people that in the government that actually believe those lies. But then again, we know our current government's relationship with science as a whole.
Right.
So I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but yeah, it's irritating beyond belief, and people are literally dying because of it, because of the lack of education, and it's beyond me how this is being allowed to continue. So how long was that course that you took?
So the course, I believe it was 6-7 hours. It was a full day, and so like I said, the first several hours of it was the training, and so to learn the identifiers and get accustomed to looking for the negatives or characteristics of the good buds, or what could be wrong with the bud, whether it be bud or mold or powdery mildew and whatnot. And then you took a test, a very intense test at the end, where you had to identify. Basically, you had jars of cannabis, and you had to identify whether it was indica, sativa, indica dominant hybrid, sativa dominant hybrid, or a 50-50 hybrid. And then there was also 5 jars that had bad product in it. So, and there could be multiple problems with it. So you had to identify whether, this was, first of all, you had to identify if it was bad. There wasn't, it wasn't separated. There was all mixed together. So, and then you had to identify whether it was, mold or the spider mites or powdery mildew, and another thing too, nutrient locked. You can tell that by if it's poorly trimmed and you've got some yellowing of the leaves, and if it's not flushed properly, you can see that is easier to identify when you're smoking it. Unfortunately, it will be definitely a harsher smoke, and you're probably going to be coughing, and it's not going to taste very well. But
and so that's a sign of nutrient lock.
That could be nutrient lock, or it could be a lot of times. I would say it's probably poorly flushed, because a lot of people don't really understand. They think just flushing your plant would be if you say feed or nutrients say twice a week, that you're just giving them plain water in between those feedings, and they think that is flushing, while you're just not. But really, the soil is going to retain. If this is speaking with soil, I only use soil when I was out in Colorado. But it will retain enough that you really have to flush the plants to get that out. If you want those nutrients to get processed and get out of that pot, I didn't realize it, but you almost think you're giving it too much water. If there is such a thing, like you want to see it gushing out of the bottom, and that is a truly properly flushed product, and you need to do that for, some people, at least a week, 2 weeks before harvest, and that's going to give you a much purer smoke and a smoother smoke too.
Wow. So how many years were you in Colorado learning all this great stuff? Yeah,
2 years. 2 years in Colorado, like I said, kind of it was kind of a makeshift group of guys that we're trying to get our foot in the door, and initially go into some rec stores and trying to sell it. We were making, buying cartridges online. We were making vape pens, taking it to a place to have it converted into wax, and that was very moderate success. The business model kind of changed, and then we started. I just focused completely on the 2 greenhouses. So, and that was much more my history, my professional experience in college. I feel like when it comes to sales and maybe face-to-face customer and consumer interactions, that's what I'm more experienced for. But so that's why I was so excited to really get involved with the growing aspect. And I learned I have a green thumb, which is great. Not everybody has that.
Exactly.
Some people, believe it or not, just can't keep something alive.
That would be me.
And it's fine, but you got to spend a lot of time with the plants. And I'm not saying I was good. I didn't hit the ground running by any stretch, but I did spend a lot of time with the plants. I spent a lot of time in the greenhouse, and I spent a lot of time in my basement just watching them. So
And that's what's so great about this industry is that you don't, it, it's really open to anyone that has the desire. And there's a
Mhm.
lot of different places in the industry that you can plug yourself into.
Absolutely.
So
There's a lot of opportunity. It's sometimes a scary leap, and starting out too, you may not always get the position that you want. You may have to start out as a trimmer, uh,
exactly.
which, you're going to be sitting for long periods of time doing very monotonous, uh, mind
Mind
numbing,
numbing.
yeah, mind numbing work. Absolutely, where you will drift off. But that's how you meet people.
Mhm.
It's how you get your foot in the door, and it's also useful. I mean, I
Mhm.
didn't know how to trim a plant when I came in. It's not rocket science by any stretch, but there is a right and wrong way to do it,
Mhm.
and you can see that reflected in some of the dispensaries. Some even out here in Michigan, where you just they just wanted to get it in a jar and get it on the shelf, and you've got
Mm.
weeds and
Yeah.
it's just poorly trimmed product. So,
Yeah.
but it was the class was awesome. The material was awesome. I recommend it to anybody, even too if you're not looking to get in the industry, if you just want to be an educated consumer,
Mhm.
to make an informed decision when you're in the dispensary, instead of, if you're looking for a heavy indica and you see grape ape, don't just point and buy. I would absolutely, they're going to let you smell it and look at it and probably not
Uh-huh.
break open the bud, but
Yeah.
analyze it. And if it's not meeting the standards you want, then pick another strain or go to another store or go to
Mhm.
another dispensary. Don't, if you have that knowledge and ammo to go in, then you're going to be a much more informed and educated buyer for sure.
Awesome. All right, let's talk about Michigan. What's
All right. Yeah.
happening in Michigan with the laws?
Oh my. Okay. So Michigan went medicinal in 2008, and so I don't know how long these guidelines have been in, but you can have 6 plants, three flowering and mature flowering stage, but then you can also be a caregiver for up to 5 people. So I guess
So
if you
30
were
plus yourself, 36.
right, yeah,
Mhm.
right, mature plants, yes. So 72 total, though, if you
Mhm.
had in the vegetative stage. So, um, and then I guess it was before I got here, but probably 2015. It hasn't been that long that they actually allowed dispensaries to open up, but there's no guidelines. So, and
Mhm.
there's no taxation. I cannot understand, with as much trouble as the state is in financially. Uh, like literally, when I go into a dispensary, even to this day, if we went in and bought an eighth for $50, $40, whatever, it's $40. There
Wow.
is no tax. There is no
You know,
tax.
here's the thing. There are plenty of states that are doing it right that they could have gone and gotten help from.
Absolutely. Yeah, you guys are the crown jewel of examples, I think, on how to do it correctly. I don't see why they just didn't take the template and what you
And
guys
tweak
said.
it a bit,
Yeah,
make
yeah,
it
oh
your
yeah,
own.
absolutely. You
Yeah.
can tweak it a bit. So now things are moving, but there's still a lot of gray area. Everybody's in a holding pattern right now because they are issuing, the application process is now underway, and they are issuing the first licenses for dispensaries. So technically, all this time from 2015 to 17, these dispensaries have kind of been operating illegally
Mhm.
because there are no guidelines out there.
Right.
There was no guidelines. So the governor came in, and I guess he he allowed there to be provisioning centers and for there to actually be edibles and extracts, along with the combustibles. But with it right now, they are still awarding licenses to people. It costs
Mhm.
a good amount of money just to submit your application. That's another thing that have held a lot of people back, because to submit, I believe, the dispensary application, or it could be the highest grow count, which is like 1,500 plants, I believe,
Mhm.
for a commercial grow. It's $5,000 just for the application, and
And
you
that's
can
not guaranteeing you anything.
not guaranteed. No, you can be denied. So
Wow.
um,
Yikes.
I think they've had a lot of people applying, but I read something in Lansing where Lansing was just littered. Lansing and Detroit they have a lot of dispensaries,
Uh-huh.
and I don't think anybody had applied in Lansing just yet, because the rules they want to know what exactly it takes to be accepted and awarded the license, because they don't want to, or even if it's just filling out the application incorrectly. So they've had a lot of meetings and conferences trying to hammer this out. So I don't even feel super comfortable speaking to the laws because it is such a gray area right now. 2018, there's going to be a lot of good things happening. I mean, obviously they're awarding these licenses. Dispensaries are going to be operating completely legitimately. The regulations, so one of the licenses, they are going to have testing labs for good or ill, or how accurate they are. They are.
It's a start, at least.
Absolutely a start. It is absolutely a start. So it is. The companies sure aren't hiring like I thought they were going to be when I got here. I'm doing some freelance consulting and helping some people out, and I got some things coming down the pike in 2018 . But it's I don't want to say it because I don't want to jinx myself.
No, don't jinx yourself. No.
Yeah. But there's going to be a lot of opportunity here, and a cool thing about Michigan is I believe they're number 2, and I'm assuming it's to California, but maybe it's Colorado. But when it comes to medicinal card holders, they have the second largest population.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Of medicinal card holders. And then the way it's looking right now, legalization should be on the ballot for 2018.
For rec?
Yeah, for recreational. Yes, correct. So it, and I think I feel pretty good about that. They've gotten enough signatures, and I feel like with what it's done. And then when it comes to, I guess that's what's frustrating too, is if they would have been taxing it this whole time,
exactly,
they could have seen, the bottom line does a lot for opening people's eyes and getting them to come around. Unfortunately, even though it's a great plant.
Will they start taxing it in January?
I believe so. I'm not sure on that. I had to get back to
if they do, at least you'll have a good 6+ months of tax information, to be able to say, hey, look, people, we've already gotten this much money in, and it really, like you say, it moves the ball. It
absolutely,
really
and you guys have done unbelievable things, right? With roads and schools.
And Aurora is using theirs towards helping some of the homeless people. We're doing really well, and I'm so grateful for the influx of money to be able to help because everyone's hurting.
Right. And that's a source of money too that just didn't. It's not like you're taking it from another sector, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It appears out of nowhere, and there it is. It's just money that is there. So,
and here's the other thing: when it comes to rec, you'll have a lot. I mean, other than just rec people using it, there's going to be some people that have not done the medicinal side because they didn't want that card. Because you're in all these states, especially Hawaii right now. You take a look. You're not allowed to. You will not pass a background check to buy a weapon if you have a medicinal card. And in Hawaii, I guess they're taking guns back if you have the medicinal card. Now, this is what really pisses me off. Is the NRA with their big Second Amendment. It's like, okay, well, where are you in Hawaii right now?
I agree totally. My dad's a member of the NRA.
Sorry, but hypocrites.
I was like right into them.
This should be and I personally don't own a gun, but don't be a hypocrite. If you're saying that everyone has the right, support the people with the cards as well. Don't
And with that, is that just any firearm? So like if you're a shotgun?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about that because hunting it's one thing to have a handgun, but hunting is Colorado, Michigan, people hunt a lot.
Michigan, Colorado, definitely.
Yeah.
But that's when that's why with the rec side, you'll get people you'll be picking up people on the medicinal side also.
Absolutely.
Weren't able to do it because they didn't want to. You can be freaking passing out drunk, but and have it, but heaven forbid you be medicated or last night before you went to bed you smoked so you'd have a good night's sleep. So when you wake up in the morning, please.
Right. Yeah. And that's part of the stigma that we're all trying to squash too. It's
education.
So accepted in society to talk about either getting drunk or having a hangover, even in the workplace. I tied one on last night. Yeah, yeah, and it's hardy har har. But if somebody were to say that, oh man, I had a great strain, I smoked a bowl last night and
Mhm.
had a wonderful night's sleep and woke up and felt refreshed, you will be looked at in a negative way and maybe even
Lose your job. Exactly.
yeah, you have to take a urine screen immediately if you verbalize that.
And
So
here's the thing also is that we're just really not getting a lot of help, even from within our own industry. Just yesterday, there was a little video on Facebook that from Herb,
mhm.
the little herb group,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it
yeah.
was talking about how when you quit smoking, um, the salivary glands come back, and blah, this, that, and the other, and you won't get the munchies as much. I'm like, how stereotypical.
Right,
The munchies has everything to do with the strain, with the terpenes, with, it's like, is it high in THCV, or is it, it's like, come on.
right.
And so even within our own industry, we're getting just stupid things like that, where they're just playing off the stereotypes. Can we please stop? Can we just can we stop with the hot box videos and stuff like that? We're trying to get this legalized nationwide. You're not fucking helping. So,
No, you're absolutely right. You are so right. There are videos out there that they are just kind of perpetuating the stigma and making it, the all the negative things.
mhm,
That, but I think I've heard you say on some of the other podcasts too. It's clickbait. People are
yeah,
people are wanting to to get people to watch it, and I don't know if it's supposed to be a comedy effect or whatever they're just trying to do, or just for attention and to make money. But
yeah, it's money.
that's not what this industry is about. It's about helping people and
Mhm.
hopefully educating people and um, and not having fear of being incarcerated for a plant that grows naturally out in the wild, unadulterated, without any human
Mhm.
effect on it. It just grows. So how
Exactly.
it's kind of it's ridiculous that it's illegal, and it's ridiculous that people have gotten in trouble for it and are still getting in trouble for it.
Well, it's just such a moneymaker for the states and for the feds. The seizure laws, at least in Colorado, we've done some good things with our seizure laws here. But in other states, they just take the money, and
Or
even if
yeah,
you're found
civil
innocent,
forfeiture. Yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
even if you're found innocent, you have to sue to get your stuff back,
yeah.
which is
There is.
ridiculous. So that's why we have to have and that's probably why the Colorado has reversed that, or has tweaked that, the forfeiture stuff, is because we are getting the money from the taxes.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
we're
Absolutely. That's a very
replace
good point.
yeah, so maybe if we can just and there are so many people that are against the taxes, and I'm like, look, 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 look. You know, there's give and take in everything.
Right.
If
Yeah.
you don't want to pay
I
the
have.
taxes, grow it. So no
Yeah.
one's
Oh, there you
stopping you.
go. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't have to pay taxes if you grow it. So just shut up. Just but I
So
pay.
right.
I don't grow my tomatoes either because I do not have a green thumb. So I go and I buy them at the grocery store and I pay tax on it. Get over it.
Yeah.
But
But you know what? There are, like, where I'm from in Indiana, a lot of
mhm,
people do grow their own tomatoes.
yeah,
But guess what? They still go to the store and buy ketchup, and they still go to the store and buy tomatoes in the wintertime when they're not, because people aren't growing tomatoes in their basement.
yeah.
So,
And they
you know,
probably buy nutrients for the tomatoes, and they probably buy fresh soil or whatever.
right, right, absolutely. And they've got tomatoes coming out of their ears for about 2 months, but then after that, it goes away. So I think that's a great model. I don't know if that was Ed Rosenthal or Steve Dean. I read that somewhere. The tomato model. He compared it to that. To
Yeah,
where, why can't it? Yes, a lot of people grow their own tomatoes, but they still sell them in the store,
yeah,
and it's still there. So that's the great part about it is you can, in these legalized states, grow your
mhm,
own.
yeah.
And
So if you don't want to pay taxes, then just grow it.
absolutely, absolutely. So
Okay, well, I think we've solved all the problems of the world. God,
me and you together, this is good.
Casey and Dawn, there you go.
Peacock and bass,
That's right, baby. That's what we do.
quite the
So,
tandem.
so, what are some things that you think maybe the average cannabis user might not have any clue about that would help them be good consumers?
Um, well, I guess when it comes to the purchasing aspect of it, if you know what you're after, and then, like I said, if you can visually look at it, smell it, that is always good. But I think when it comes to the using aspect of it, like I said, I was using it for a while in my younger days for intoxication and not wellness. So if people just learn how to use it, and
And intoxication is fine. I mean,
it absolutely is. Like I said, fortunately right now I don't use it medicinally. I'm a rec user, but so yeah, just like people use alcohol for recreationally and for pleasure, cannabis can be used like that, and there's nothing bad about that. But I think if you are a novice user or a new user, knowing or having somebody you can trust that can tell you what to do, and not just like be excited to see this person get really high or get really messed up, because especially when you're smoking it, if you've got a good strain, 1 or 2 hits, and just sit back and let it do its job. And I think a lot of times with people that smoke a lot, or you smoke until you feel it, and if you're still smoking when it kicks in, then you're probably going to be in about 5 or 10 minutes.
I figured that out the wrong way.
Yeah, well, we all do, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of, and it may not lead to anything negative, but the whole couch lock thing may set in, and that's, once again, that kind of speaks to somebody's personality, but the strain can exacerbate that a little bit. And then edibles is a whole different monster.
You really have to follow directions with edibles. People.
Follow directions, absolutely. And start low and slow. It affects people differently, and it lasts longer than smoking. And I think I've heard one of your podcasts too. You're talking about the New York Times lady. Well, that was just complete her not reading directions.
Well, no. She was even told.
Oh,
she ignored directions.
Oh, okay.
Which makes it even worse. But I mean, like when I realized that you don't smoke to the point where you feel it while you're smoking, I had a migraine, and there's certain migraines that when you have hormonal migraines, it's really hard to find something that helps. I've gone to marijuana doctors in Colorado, and they're like, "Oh, hormone migraines. Oh, that's a tough one to fix. The stress one's great. The other one's great. The hormone one's like, oh." So my husband at the time had really heavy. He had some strong stuff, and so I took probably 4 or 5 puffs, which for me, I never smoke, so that's like huge for me.
Right.
And I forgot how to swallow. I had a dish rag, but that's my own fault. And the thing is, it still didn't get rid of my headache. So,
well, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And if that is a sativa, that would be the last thing I would recommend for somebody. If it's anything in your head, PTSD.
See, and that's the thing. I didn't know the difference. I was taking completely the wrong thing.
Yeah, it could make it worse for some people in a way, if you really get in your head, and it could really maybe make the pounding even worse.
Yeah, and so that's why people have to just be okay with asking questions. Don't just take something from someone thinking, "Oh, well, it's all the same." It's not. You can have a wonderful experience. You can have just something that completely supports you in whatever it is that you need, but you have to ask.
Yep, absolutely. One of the first edibles I got, and one of the good things about with all the gray area and kind of lack of information and just stuff going on here in Michigan, they do have reciprocity. So before I got my card changed over to here, they recognized my Colorado card. But
that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, but it was cool. They will reciprocate that. But so I went in and bought a gummy and it was like a little gummy robot that just had the brand name on it. Zero information, no
Yeah,
milk. Most of the places do have the actual milligram content
that's
on it,
good.
but this did not. It just so no milligram,
Oh
no
my.
strain, and it was an extreme. It was about the size of a Chiba Chew out there in
Uh-huh.
Colorado, maybe a little bit bigger. And I mean, and I have a longtime consumer, so I feel like my tolerance is decent. It lit me up, and
Wow.
I could not imagine if somebody. And like I said, very small, something that you would
Mhm.
just pop in your mouth real quick, and nothing large. And I couldn't imagine if a first time user or a very moderate or inconsistent user, I mean,
Mhm.
it would probably, who knows what it would do, but
Yeah.
it may scar them for life and never want to use the product
They'd
again.
run away afraid. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And I've had some friends who are longtime smokers, um, that have had uh, edibles, and they're like, "Oh," an hour later, like, "God, nothing happened." So, he's at home, he jumps in the shower, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh my God! Oh my God!" He's like holding on to the shower walls. They're like, "What the
yeah.
hell's
Well,
happened?"
yeah. The problem is a lot of times people make the mistake of taking another one after
Exactly, because they
60
didn't
to
think it
90
worked.
minutes. Yeah,
Yeah, and the thing is that nowadays, this was years ago. Nowadays, everything in Colorado in the dispensaries very easily uh clearly marked, very clearly
yeah,
marked. Directions on that, and on top of the directions, the bud tender discusses it with you.
right,
They let you know, have
right.
you ever taken this before? Here's what you do, and just such a just the night and day from even within 5 years. It's wonderful, and I look forward to that being nationwide.
Yeah, and I feel like in Colorado too, even though we were saying, there are some, I guess, things left to be desired with the laboratory and the testing.
Hmm.
The testing or the information on the edibles, I do feel like in Colorado it's accurate.
Hmm.
There was never a time that I ate something that was 10 or 25 or even 50 milligrams, and I didn't feel like it was very accurate. I do
Yeah,
feel
and
like the labeling, you guys do a really good job of that.
when
So,
I was talking about the testing, I was talking more about the um, the cannabinoid breakdown
oh yeah, okay, yeah, yeah,
than THC versus than how many grams of THC is in it. Yeah, I'm
mm,
talking more about CBN to CBA to CBG to CBD to
right,
that breakdown,
right, okay.
which in my world is important. You know
Yeah, yeah,
when
absolutely.
so
Um, yeah, and that's something I am familiar with CBD, but I don't use it so
Mhm.
much. So
Well, you don't need it.
no, I don't. I guess not. But moving forward,
Mhm.
you know,
And also remember that it's great for pets. Like if you have, if someone's got a dog with, an arthritic hip, it's awesome.
yeah,
It works really well. It gives them their step back. Instead of giving them a heavy pharmaceutical.
yeah, absolutely. And there was one of our friends here in Michigan. He swears by some of the doggy treats. They
Mm,
sell them here too.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, the CBDs, and I guess his dog was a real kind of freak out, or
Oh,
separation anxiety,
yes. Oh,
and
it's
so
wonderful.
he swears by it. Granted,
Mm-hmm.
it's anecdotal, and it is what it is. But he said that, I mean, the second he gave that dog that treat, it was like you said, night and day,
Yeah.
and not like the dog was a zombie or something,
Mm-hmm.
but when it came to him spazzing out and barking,
Mm-hmm.
being hoarse when they get home.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I've had the same experience with mine, uh, and the great thing is that one of the reasons that I know how well it works is because he's great when we get home, but if someone else comes to the door, he's on alert and
oh,
he's
right.
barking. So it has nothing to do with him being drugged or anything.
Hmm.
It's like it's just the lack of anxiety. It's like, oh, mom's home. This is cool. There's or if I'm gone, it's not a big deal. But he's still on alert if someone comes to the door that he doesn't know. And
Right.
then he's just doing his job and letting me know, hey, someone's here. But I have a friend in California who had uh Chihuahua, and
Hmm.
they can spaz, man. They
Yes.
can really spaz. And he's like, Oh my God, I love my dog so much more now. It's
Yeah,
a good
well, like you
thing.
said too, the dog, when you're leaving, instead of it freaking out, he's thinking, "Oh, I know she'll be back." You
Exactly.
know,
It's like, all right, bring me
it's
something. You know.
she's coming back. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful. So, let's see. And do you have any, because you did work here for a while, um, do you have any success stories with using the plant from anyone when you were here in Colorado? Do you hear about anyone like getting relief from pain from it or things like
Yeah,
that, PTSD
actually,
or
yes.
Mhm.
My roommate at the time, he was a big rock climber out
Uh-huh.
there,
Yeah.
and he tore his shoulder up pretty bad not long before I got there. But also, he was still recuperating, and he was pretty much religious about applying salves
Yeah.
and he loved it, and so he swore by it that it worked for him, and
Mhm.
I don't know if I guess it loosened it up. I never really used it, but he, the salve that he was using, he loved it. So that
I
was
broke
one
my
thing.
I broke my foot over the summer and ripped 3 tendons, and that's all I used was the salve. I didn't even take a Tylenol.
Oh,
It worked so
really?
well. Yeah, it was great.
I saw something on I don't know, one of the websites I was. It may have been LinkedIn with all the people I'm following, but there was a study where somebody had applied it to shingles.
Oh,
I guess the
yeah.
oil or the salve, and it worked.
Yeah. One
It
of
worked
my we interviewed a
miraculously.
doctor early on, and her father had shingles, and she said, "Here, Dad, just try it." And it worked.
Amazing.
Well, it's immune. Shingles is immune. So it makes sense because, the endocannabinoid system supports the immune system. So, but yeah, I just, man, I love this plant. I love it in so many ways.
Really, there's no reason not to. And even if you don't use it, you shouldn't be against it because,
Exactly.
like I said, it grows unadulterated without any help of humans
Yeah.
or, like it's a plant.
Yeah.
So,
And now I saw something that the DEA has approved the synthetic um, THC now. Like,
why? Right? Like, why? So they can make it and make money off of
yeah.
it. I get like, what?
hmm
It makes
Exactly.
some sense.
And you know what? As long as they allow both, I'm good with it because there are going to be people who they just want to take a pill.
True.
So that's
True.
fine. That's fine. But
Yep.
don't don't disallow it, for the rest, for people who want the natural and and besides they tried that. They tried the whole Marinol thing or whatever it was. I don't remember what it was called.
Yeah,
So
I think that's what it was.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it didn't they didn't do so well with it because you need that entourage effect. You need that combination of the cannabinoids and the terpenes to make it work better. So,
Right. Right.
all right, well, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Like I said, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. I'm a big fan. I appreciate the work you do. You do a great job, and yeah, keep up the good work. And if you want an update on the Michigan landscape and
You
everything
know I do.
moving forward, well, let's hook up again here in
Okay,
the near future, and I can give some updates and let everybody know where I'm at or and what's
definitely.
going on here out in the Great Lakes region.
Right. Well, we'll make sure we put your contact information. Actually, go ahead and give us a email address, and we'll put it in the show notes also.
Okay, email is caseyabass, CASEYABASS @gmail.
Awesome.
And yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn too.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
I
Yep.
look forward to connecting people and meeting as many people as possible. And
Yeah. If you guys are in the Michigan area, for sure, look them
yeah,
up.
look me up. Let's get together.
Let's go smell some trichones.
That's right. That's right. Let's go. Let's do some interpening. Let's grade some buds.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for joining us today, and stay happy and stay healthy.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.